This 1-foot pixel tube light will finally make you a better filmmaker. Just kidding, it's just a 1-foot tube light, but it is really versatile and it can save you in a pinch depending on your situation. In short, this is a foot-long tube light which has pixels, which means you can have effects like this. There's some test shots later in the video, but for now, here's a quick review. It has magnets, so you can put it on a lot of different types of surfaces, which not only cuts out a lot of time, but it also gives you more flexibility to use it as a practical, as you'll see in some of the shots that I'll show you later. It comes with a really nice case, a grid, and a cheap little tripod, which does the job for the most part. Also, this light is pretty bright for its size. At 1 meter when it's set to daylight, the output lux is at 159. If you compare it with another tube light like the PT2C, which is a 2-foot tube light, you get about 195 lux. So as a 1-foot tube light, this is really close to being as bright as the 2-foot tube light from the Amarans. This is actually really good because if you're intending on using this light with the grid, like I am in this little lighting setup, having a little bit more output is good because putting on a grid actually reduces the output of the light by quite a bit. So having extra output to play with is really good for whenever you're using modifiers like this. The reason I really like this light is because you can use it for so many different scenarios, like corporate videos and interviews, or you can use it for more artistic purposes like narrative filmmaking, commercials, product videos. Here are some test shots I was able to shoot with this light. Here's the first shot we are working with here. So I just kind of turned on the light in the washroom there. It's just a standard tungsten light. It's a little bit dim too. And I purposefully underexposed the shot so that the light in the washroom appears underexposed. And then to kind of balance it out, I set the MT Pro to daylight so that there's a little bit of a difference in color temperature. And I had it so that it's just backlighting me there, which is leaving my face a little bit dark, which is what makes this shot, you know, nice and ominous. And this is the beauty of using the grid, because if I hadn't used that grid, the light would have spilled everywhere around those walls where the door is and everything else, because they're just white walls and it's a very small area. But now it's more directed at my head and at my face. So it's kind of creating a moodier look. Here's another shot where I just magnetized it to the top of my oven and I set it to daylight, but I made it a little bit more blue through the grade. I used dehancer here. I guess you can also use this for product shots. Don't mind the dirty table. Here's another setup right here. I actually had a C-stand set up and did an overhead shot. All I did was just mounted the MT Pro to the tripod horizontally and put it where the TV would be and just set it to the TV effect that it comes with. And the nice thing about this light, since it's RGB, is that you can set the TV effect to actually cycle through different colors rather than just randomizing the brightness of the light. Now you could do that if you wanted to, if you didn't want as much color. There's another shot here where I let the 3 monitors be the cue light for my face and put the MT Pro right in the back just to create some sort of symmetry. But now that I look at it, it's clearly overexposed in the back there. I should have dimmed down the light way down, maybe to like 5% or so. Here's one more shot right here, just magnetized the light once more. And I set it to the faulty bulb effect, which is actually really nice and works exceptionally well on these tube lights, specifically the pixel tubes. And here's why. You can see here in some frames where it dims down in one frame and then in the next frame it turns completely off. But there are other instances randomly where in one of the frames, instead of the entire light being lit at 50%, in some of these frames, only certain pixels of the light turn on, and then the full light turns on. So it gives a whole extra layer of complexity of how a faulty bulb actually looks, because it would be this random. Besides those types of ways of lighting, you can also use this for pretty much anything else, like corporate videos, for example, and how I'm using it in this interview is basically how I would use this light for corporate videos most of the time. So here is a cam. We've got the FX3. For the key light, I'm using the Amaran 300C. I just have it set to daylight and it is at 35% right now. I've put a 5-in-1 reflector right beside where I'm sitting here just so that it acts as a fill. And then right there I have the Amaran 200X with the spotlight modifier, and the spotlight is shooting this. It's just creating some interest back there in the wall because it's a little too dark, so I wanted to add a little bit of something. And then finally for the Amaran, I am using it there as a backlight set to tungsten. I believe it's about 35 or 3000 Kelvin. And currently that's at about 50% right now. So 50% intensity with this grid on, and it's competing with a 300C as a key light, albeit this is an indoor situation and the 300C is only at 35%, but there's a grid on this light and it is about 5 feet away from my actual head. The 200X with the spotlight is actually at 12%, so that's pretty much chilling there. And then I'm also just using this lamp, practical, and some lights to add interest as a practical, but also to raise up the overall ambience in the scene. This lamp is from Amazon, and the reason I really like it is because it has 3 dimmable options, and I just set it to the lowest setting so that it stays nice without overexposing any of the highlights. Yep, that's the Aputure MT Pro.